Hello and welcome to the 1000 Authors Show. I'm Vicky Quinn and this is my husband Joe Fraser.
Hello.
Hi. Today we're drinking a nice cup of tea. Because I think you've had a bit of a tough morning, haven't you, Joe?
It's not gone well so far. I mean, there's been successes, there's been failures.
Would you like to tell the listeners what you've been doing this morning?
Well, I got up, got the chickens out of bed, and on the walk back from the chicken coop, fell over because there were sheep milling around the place, and it was muddy, and it was drizzly, and there's lots of mud up there.
It's really muddy.
So fell over, managed to stay off the floor by virtue of like squelching both hands into sheep poo, which was good.
And then tell them what you did to Bronson.
Well, then I cleaned my hands on Bronson.
It's pretty rude.
Well, I don't want to walk around with sheep poo on me. Well, Bronson's perfectly happy with sheep poo on him. Then we were having a wood delivery, so I wanted to put a tarpaulin down on the driveway to keep wood out of the mud. And when I went to find a tarpaulin, which is up the other end of the garden, picked it up and tipped, I don't know, a litre maybe of muddy, wet rain puddle into my left boot, which was great.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear all of that, but it is amusing to me.
It's not amusing. Very, very bad starts today.
It's kind of amusing to me. Oh, I thought I'd make an effort today and look nice, and I think my top is too busy for my necklace to be visible. Is it? It's a little bit, isn't it? Anyway.
It's fine.
Anyway, what are you reading at the moment, Joe?
I have finished reading The Wheel of Time. I have finished reading The Wheel of Time. 14 books, 6.5 million words. Done. Thank goodness.
Goodness.
And you know, it's quite nice to get to the end of it, to be honest.
It's really nice to hear you get to the
Quite
end of
a
it.
relief. I feel like I should review it or something, but it is.
So what are you reading now?
I'm currently reading A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab.
It's one of my books, isn't it?
Which is one of your books. Basically, it's one of the books you threw at me in a kind of, please God, read something other than The Wheel of fucking Time.
I mean, you can read whatever you like, but yeah, it got all a bit much.
So I'm reading that, and it's like a whole story, but compressed into only one book.
It's a series. There's more of them, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it kind of feels like.
That's because you've just read the most ridiculously long epic series ever.
It all feels really compressed.
Cool. Okay.
I'm sure it's very good, but
Yeah.
it feels very fast. It's like, oh, what happens next? Oh, another thing.
I'm going to have a break between epic fantasy and reading that book because I think I'm just going to be a bit disappointed at its thinness. But anyway, so I've literally last night finished reading The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss, which is the second in the King Killer trilogy. The third one is not. There's no release date for it yet, and so now I'm like.
And that was a 900-pager, wasn't it?
900-pager. It was really. I loved it. It was really good. It was almost like 3 chunky books in one.
Right.
So there's 3 almost separate stories in one. Because he's like narrating the story of his life. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think you're gonna really enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to the next installment of the trilogy, and he's got a novella out as well, in that set in that same kind of universe and world. So I'm gonna get the novella. But I'm about to start Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo, which I think won the Booker Prize in 2019.
I've heard of that. Have I heard of that on Radio 4?
Probably, yeah. So yeah, I am looking forward to starting that. I'm going to start that tonight. And non-fiction, I am reading Out on the Wire by Jessica Abel, which I actually have in front of me right now. So if you're looking at the YouTube version of this, this is it. Ooh, and it's a little bit different because it's a comic book. It took me a little while to get into it and get started. Thank you. but I'm really enjoying it, and we're having Bookaholics Anonymous meeting on Monday, so we'll talk about this in more detail. But it's really good because even though it took me a little while to get into it, it's a really great way of putting ideas into a book and being able to pull the key ideas out of what I'm looking at. So I've got really good notes because I always make notes on the books I read. So it's very good. I'm enjoying it. Yeah. And this week at Moxie Towers, I have been trolled on YouTube.
Nice.
By a Trump supporter who was actually at the Capitol, right? So that type of person, who called me a racist.
Nice. What? Why?
So I do not know. And like when I first saw it, like my initial reaction would have been like 18 months ago, I would have properly had a meltdown over that kind of thing, because I would have just been like, why somebody like in public has called me a racist and thinks I'm an awful person. And then I had a closer look at who she was and was like, what? This is like, what? And so, yeah, she called me racist as all get out, which is a bit of a word salad and I don't really know what it means. But
very.
Oh, is that okay? Cool. But yeah, I was like, wait, you're like actually storming the Capitol and waving a MAGA flag and a Confederate flag, and you're calling me racist. Okay then. And so I was going to be like, wait, okay, what? Please explain how so. And then I looked at who she was and was like, yeah, no, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot barge pole.
Not engaging with crazy.
No, but it's my first ever proper internet troll, like proper anonymous internet troll.
Was that a troll?
I think so.
Maybe she really believed that.
Well, I don't think she could have listened to the... Oh, no, you know what? I bet she's one of those people who thinks I'm being racist against white people, which isn't a thing, people. So, yeah. Anyway, that was fun. I enjoyed that. So maybe she's going to watch this episode as well and continue her dialogue, her monologue with me, because I'm not getting involved in that.
Hello, crazy person.
No, let's not, because these people aren't crazy. They're... Crazy people aren't awful people.
Oh, okay. No. Hello, strangely opinionated person.
Let's just not talk to her at all. So yeah, anyway, that was that. But at Casa Dingle, we've been clearing out the greenhouse, we've been clearing out the raised beds, generally pottering around and all ready to start planting this year's vegetables, which is really exciting.
With a planting plan.
I have a planting plan, yeah.
Jeez.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I haven't got it in the office now, but I think I'll try and remember for the next podcast, and I will have it and we can show you, because it's also a masterpiece in marketing, because I get all of my seeds from this one place now and there's a reason for it.
Yep.
So anyway, right, this week we are talking about the power of tiny, and so I thought I'd start by listing things that are tiny but powerful.
Right. Like
tardigrades.
Okay.
Your turn. What else is tiny but powerful?
Ants.
Yes, because they can carry like many times their own body weight. I haven't really researched this.
What are we doing?
Fleas. Fleas are tiny but powerful.
Okay.
They can jump like thousands of times their own height. What else is tiny but powerful?
Looking at your notes, nanobots?
Well, yeah, because they're like really tiny, but they can do all sorts of cool stuff.
Can they?
Yeah.
What can they do?
Cool stuff. If you listen to conspiracy theorists, they can like rewrite your DNA and shit. DNA, there you go. That's tiny but powerful.
All right.
Bronson's head.
It's very powerful.
And tiny compared to normal sheep's.
Okay.
So yes, that is what we are talking about today. How things can be tiny but powerful, and sometimes more powerful than massive things. Because there isn't, I don't think, anything that is like big. What? No, don't laugh at me. This is...
I'm just fascinated as to where this is going.
Relatively speaking, right? So imagine that there is something human-sized. Is there anything human-sized that can jump, relatively speaking, as high as a flea? I don't think so.
No.
What? I don't understand why.
I'm waiting for the smooth segue.
There might not be a smooth segue.
I'm just like, this is going to be a good segue. Brace yourselves, people. It's going to make sense, I'm sure.
There's going to be a segue.
Okay.
Let's not set the expectation that it's going to be smooth.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. Wait for it.
Oh man, now you've ruined everything. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to contrast like fleas and tardigrades to the myth of massive action. and how we're always being told about, making grand gestures and 10xing this, that and the other, right?
Right.
We were talking about this the other day.
Okay.
10xing.
Which is like internet language for 10xing your business and multiplying everything by 10 and suddenly going from
0 to 6 figures overnight.
Yeah, which doesn't happen.
It doesn't, it vanishingly rarely happens.
Yeah, I mean, if you invent quantum flux or something, then maybe. But
if you were lucky enough to buy a Bitcoin the day before it exploded, then that's probably massively more than 10xing. But anyway, yeah, my point is it doesn't really happen that much, and it's not realistic.
It's
and
not a good expectation to have.
Not consistent, and it's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. It's like, okay, so what would you rather have? Would you rather make like 10 grand overnight and then, you know, £1 a week for the rest of the year? Or would you rather make 10 grand consistently once a month?
I would like the consistent, please.
Exactly. And
I would like sustainability.
Exactly. And that is my smooth segue from tardigrades and fleas to the topic of this.
I mean, tardigrades are very sustainable, aren't they? Aren't they like one of the most sustainable things there is?
Exactly. They're tiny and powerful.
And fleas jump like 1,000 times their... So fleas...
Tiny and powerful. But like giant, okay, here we go. So like giant, overly muscled, like, you know, those people, they're mostly men who look like triangles, and they can barely move because they've got all these muscles, and it's like, okay, they're really strong in one direction,
Right.
but then try and get them to do stuff, and they're just like, I can't do things.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That,
I mean, fleas like 1,000x their altitude, didn't they?
yes, I think we should move away from the tiny but powerful things and continue with...
Okay, we'll just pretend... Yeah, okay, pretend that segue just totally made sense. And move on.
Look, in my head it made sense.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
If it made sense in your head, dear listener, please write in and tell me so that...
If it made no sense in your head, please write in and tell us. And we'll work on our segues.
I'm not going to work on our segues. I like my segues. How very dare you?
Okay.
So yes, okay. My point is that sometimes you can make a grand gesture and do something huge, and sometimes that's cool. And I actually did that when I went to Lanzarote. Do you remember when I went to Lanzarote and wrote How the Hell Do You Write a Book?
It's like, I'm going to write a book, and you go away for a fortnight and write a book.
A week.
A week.
And I did. I got my shitty first draft done. It was a very shitty first draft. I'd already done the outlining before I got there, and I just wrote solidly for a week. And I know that Kenda also did that. She had outlined her book as she went and wrote. Hi, Kenda! And she wrote her book. And Jen also made. Hi, Jen!
Hi, Jen.
Jen also made massive progress on her book because we went away specifically for that. But that's not sustainable. You can't go away once a week every week.
No.
And write, because you would be exhausted and you have other things to do, and you know, it's wonderful. I love a writing retreat. I would like to do one twice a year if I could. And you know, had COVID not hit last year, I would have run my very first writing retreat last year. And it would have been brilliant. That was my plan. That was on my business plan for last year.
Your very first writing? Oh, okay, yeah.
And then my first paid for writing retreat for people. Okay. But it didn't happen. So yeah, you can make a grand gesture every now and then, and that's cool. But that's one thing that will produce big results, like as a one-off. But the biggest progress most of the time comes from tiny actions that you take consistently, right? It comes from focus and just making tiny progress every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's not really very sexy. And that's why the internet bro-hustler-marketers always get, you know, headlines and sales with their 10x your income overnight. And I'm just always like, oh, would you just fuck off, honestly, with that?
Because why don't you just consistently 1.001x your business overnight?
Yeah, instead of 0.1xing, which is what I keep saying.
Do not 0.1x your business.
Do not, because you'll shrink until you are non-existent. So yeah, I wanted to talk about the power of compound interest, because that's kind of the same thing, isn't it? And I didn't really understand compound interest until my client, Nick, explained it beautifully simply in his book, which is coming out soon.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, Nick. And yeah, so, and I still don't really understand compound interest, other than understanding that, Joe, do a really simple sum. So if you've got like £10 and then
you get 10% interest.
That becomes £11.
It becomes £11. Then you get 10% interest, and it becomes 12.1. And then you get compound interest.
No, 12.2. £12.20. No, 20. Oh my god!
Anyway.
Neither of us can do off the cuff maths. Anyway, the point is that it doesn't
because
just.
You sit me down here like some kind of puppet. I walk in.
Okay.
You make me just, and then you go do compound maths.
do compound maths. Okay, I'm sorry. But okay, so say you start with £10 and then you get 10% interest. But like, say you got 10% interest every month, but you don't get another £1 every month, because once you've added that £1 onto the compound interest, you then get £1.10, and then you get £1.20. Or whatever it is, it compounds and compounds and goes up and up and up, and it makes it so that you can, if you invested, I think his thing was, if you invest like, I don't know, £5,000 at the age of birth, then by the time you're 65, you'll have a giant pot of cash.
Yes, there's something like if you stick 100 quid in an account every month from the age of 10 to 30, you'll have enough to retire on. But if you stick £100 a month into an account between the ages of 40 to 60, you will have nowhere near enough to retire on.
No. So you can end up with the same, if you say you want £1 million in your pension pot, if you start saving from a very early age, it could cost you maybe, 100 grand. But if you start saving from the age of 40, it might cost you 500 grand. So you'll have the same amount of money at the end, but it's going to cost you a lot more. So anyway, all of that, we should probably not talk about compound interest, but start saving early, kids.
Yeah.
And if you've got kids, start saving for them like yesterday. Start them a pension right now. I really wish I had started saving when I was a child, and not enough parents understand this stuff. But this is all linked because it's like, making 1% improvement each day on anything you do is going to compound.
It's going to rack up real fast.
So, but that's not sexy. Nobody's like, oh, I want to improve by 1%. It's like, it doesn't sound like much. It's like people, I want to improve. I want to 10 times everything. Which
yeah, I mean, if you 10 times your business, that'd be brilliant. But if it kills you and your relationships and your time and your sleep and your sanity and everything else,
and you only 10 times it once,
and you 10 times, and you're knackered.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can sustainably work out a system that gets you 1% a week,
yeah, and also there are other problems.
You're golden. It's great.
Yeah, there are other problems as well that arise from growing too quickly. Most businesses will not, they really struggle with that kind of rapid growth because it's like, how are you going to deal with the...
You can't systemize it fast enough, and suddenly you're headless chickening all over the place.
Yeah, and so yeah, you got to have all sorts. If one of your aims is to make massive improvement in anything, you've got to make sure you've got the infrastructure underneath to support that, because otherwise you're going to make those massive changes and improvements and everything will collapse.
Yeah, you'll go from having 3 customers you can cope with to 30 customers that you can't cope with.
And then you upset them all, and then they leave, and
that's that. You're done.
Yeah. So anyway, so yes, we're making 1% improvements every day, and I was going to draw. Could you grab me? Oh, hang on, I've got a piece of paper here. I was going to draw a terrible graph. So, talk amongst yourself, Joe.
Infographics on the podcast. This is going to work brilliantly for those of you who are not watching the video.
It is.
It's going to be amazing, honestly. So Vicky's drawing things on a piece of paper live during the podcast. Oh my god.
Oh, what? No, it is true though. Okay, so that is the graph. So it's really flat along the bottom for ages if you're improving by 1% every day, but then suddenly it will take off and curve up super steeply. So you've got time along the bottom and improvement along the top.
Exponential growth, people.
Exponential growth, people. That was a very crappy drawing.
Alright.
James Clear calls it incremental gains. I call it tiny beetle steps because I'm more colourful than he is. You don't notice it day by day, but by the end of a year, when you look back at where you started, it's an enormous improvement because it compounds. And this is why I always, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see me sometimes taking pictures of me working on my splits and flexibility. This is why, because it's really frustrating. You don't notice the difference every day. But if I then go back and look at where I started at the beginning of the year and then look at where I am at the end of the year, it's the difference is huge. Like, I'm up here at the beginning of the year and I'm almost flat at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But day by day, you don't notice that. And it's the same with your writing skills. It's the same with, if you're writing a book. Again, sitting down to write a whole book is a massive undertaking, and you're not going to do it all in one go. But if you're like, I am going to write 500 words a day,
mm-hmm.
You'll do that, and before you know it, you've got a book.
You've got a book.
You can work out how long if you write 500 words a day, how long is it going to take to write a 50,000 word book?
120 days, half a
year.
year.
120 days, and most people will write more, on average.
Yeah, once you've
you've
sat down and started writing, you probably write more.
Yeah, all you need to do is build the habit. I know that sounds like super simple, but it's a lot simpler and easier to do than thinking, I've got to make this grand gesture, I've got to do this huge thing, I've got to write a book. It's like, no, you've got to commit to doing something small every day, just a little tiny thing every day. And what if we narrowed our focus? Instead of trying to make 1% gains on 10 different things, let's improve it even more. Let's pick one thing and focus on that to the exclusion of all else, and then just do that for a month and work on 1% improvement or 1% gains for that one thing for a month, and then see where you are. I'm a big fan of not headless chickening around the place. It's taken me a long time to...
I think it's something of value as well, because it's very easy to just see the finished product, isn't it? It's very easy to see people go, I've written a book. And what you don't see is the habit and the incremental work and the the time put aside and all the kind of things that go into it.
Yeah.
And it's the same, you wander around Instagram and you just see people doing incredible things in incredible ways, and you go, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's just incremental work.
Yeah. And like I had that the other day on, I think it was your cousin actually. I posted one of my handstand videos and she was like, oh, I could never do that. And I'm like, well, not right now, you couldn't, but that's not how I started doing it. It's like you start with the handstand drills that I teach people in the handstand classes that I teach. It's like you start with I don't expect people to get up on their hands first lesson. That'd be crazy. And it's the same with writing a book. I don't expect you to write an amazing first draft. It's, and actually I'm talking about this a lot on Instagram this week. It's like, I give you permission to write absolute shit for the first draft because that's what it's going to be. And something else to remember, your favourite writer's first draft was a big pile of poo. So like Stephen King's first draft, rubbish, total rubbish. And it's like, by my standards it might still be pretty good, but by his standards it's total rubbish. And that is the way it is. So yes, I just wanted to run through a bit about how I do this. Oh, and by the way, you're talking about not being able to see stuff, you see the finished result on Instagram and stuff. This is part of the reason why I love my team Moxie so much, because in the Power Hour we all share what we're working on, and we share, I've got 500 words of shitty first draft done in this hour, and we're seeing it, we're seeing the process, and I'm sharing what I'm doing as well, because quite often people are like, oh, I could, I'm not a writer like you are, and blah blah blah, and it's like, I write like really bad stuff.
Just lots of it, and then you polish it.
Yeah, and so I get to share that with people, which is really, really cool. And again, it's like building that habit. The people who show up every day, sometimes twice a day, to both of the writing sessions are, they're doing awesome things because they're doing it every day, and they're not expecting massive results because they don't happen until later. So anyway, what I do is I wanted to just share. I always have my long-term goal and my lifetime goal, which is to become the best writer and writing teacher I can possibly be. I am never going to reach that goal. That's not a goal that I can ever reach. It's never going to end. And that's not the point either. The point is improvement, and I deliberately don't have this big goal that I can one day reach. Like my goal isn't to become a Pulitzer Prize winner or a Booker Prize winner. That's probably never going to happen. That's not the kind of book I write. If it does, that's flipping awesome. But that's not my goal. My goal is to just become as good as I can possibly be and move as many people to make good changes in their lives and live a better life as possible. That's my goal. But that's not something I'm going to reach. So what I do is I have smaller goals in the meantime as well. So I'll pick a goal for each month from my list of many things that I want to do. This month is I am running my Write Night, and by the time you listen to this, Write Night's running on Tuesday. So if you haven't got your play share, it's only £99 for 4 hours of writing sessions and meet and greet. We can, you'll set your goals, ask questions of me and of the team, and you also get the recordings and stuff as well. So yeah, that's happening on Tuesday. But that's cool. My goal for this month is to create that, put it together, and put as many new faces in it as possible.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm doing in January. In February, I will be doing something else. Have not quite decided what yet. I'm going to decide this week. So yeah. But this is something that you can do as well. So everything that I've been writing over this past month has been aimed at building up buzz for my Write Night party. I've mentioned it a lot. I haven't opened the cart yet, but I've been talking about stuff like, setting writing goals, putting time aside, building a habit, finding a group of people that are going to, help you and lift you up and move you on. And all of that is relevant to the Write Night that I'm doing. And also the fact that January is bloody miserable and let's have a bit of fun. And that writing should be fun. I have not been distracted by trying to write another Mindle or create another new product or do any of the other things that I'm normally trying to do at the same time. It's just, I feel quite pleased with myself, actually.
Quite grown up.
I feel quite grown up. So yeah, and I will report back on the results of all this, but I know I've stuck to the actions. I can't control the results. That, what will be will be. All I can control is the stuff that I'm putting out into the world and the actions that I'm taking. And that's the same with writing your book. You have no control over what your book's going to be like, or, whether you're even going to finish it. The only control you have is I'm going to write a bit more each day, and by the time you've finished that's when your book will appear. It's like you can't conjure up a book out of thin air. It's just, it doesn't happen like that. So does that make sense?
Yeah, you're not guaranteed the results, you're just guaranteed the action.
Yeah.
Who said that?
It's from the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is I think it's the Hindu holy book.
Nice.
The holy books. Yeah. You are only entitled to the actions, never the fruits. So yeah.
You can plant the trees.
Yeah. And I do with vegetables every year. I plant loads of seeds, and sometimes they come up, and sometimes they don't. Yeah. I can give them the best chance of coming up by being a better gardener than I am right now. But I have no control ultimately over whether they pop up out the ground. So.
And the sheep get quite a lot of them.
Yeah, little bastards. So remember the power of tiny beetle steps. Remember to be a tardigrade, people. So what's the takeaway, Joe?
Forget about the giant gestures and huge overnight improvements. Just focus on one thing to the exclusion of all else and take tiny beetle steps towards it.
Yes. And join us on Tuesday, January the 26th, 2021 for the world's first ever Moxie Books Write Night from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. I'm going to have my bottle of alcohol-free Prosecco because that's how I roll. I'm going to be wearing probably my pyjamas because it's past my bedtime. You may wear a ball gown, pyjamas, whatever you like. We're getting started at 9:30 to 9:45-ish, so meet and greet, nibbles, that kind of thing.
UK time.
UK time, yes. UK time, well done, thank you. And yeah, come meet and greet, we'll say what we're working on, and then we're going to spend 4 hours in 4 sprints, not 4 hours with your bum going numb. In 4 sprint sessions, we're going to write and make as much progress on a project as we possibly can.
Cool.
Yes. And that's that for this week. Coming up next week, we're going to talk about how to choose a writing coach or a book coach.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think I've had a few inquiries recently, and not everybody's a good fit for me. I'm not a good fit for everybody, and so I wanted to do a how to choose a writing coach or a book coach.
Nice.
I think that'll be useful. And yeah, that's it. Oh, also have a new audiobook out. You can find it on Audible. That's what she said. It's getting really good reviews so far.
Nice.
The 2-star review has been pushed away, and now it is 4.9 stars out of 5.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I'm really pleased. If you've read it and you enjoyed it, please go and rate it. If you haven't read it yet, grab yourself a copy. Apparently people are liking it.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. And if you really have listened to every episode, email me with your postal address. I have something silly to send you. If you like this podcast, go to iTunes and subscribe, please. And rate us and review us.
5 stars.
5 stars. If you don't like our podcast, not quite sure why you're still here, and also other podcasts are available.
Please feel free to exit via the gift shop.
Much more professionally run than this one, probably. And we will be back same time next week. Thanks, Joe.
No worries.
Bye.
Bye. Where are the notes? What are we doing?
I'm very confused right now.
That's great. Leave it like that.
Okay.